President Donald Trump tonight in Pennsylvania struck by a bullet from a would-be assassin. We don't know anything about the assassin yet. In fact, video circulated and images circulated of the assassin on social media. He had a beanie and glasses on, apparently making an announcement on Twitter or on YouTube. It turns out that was actually an Italian soccer player. People rushed in, identified the guy. It wasn't him. The information is moving very fast, very fast. But what we know is the president was shot across his ear. It's centimeters from it being a fatal shot. Centimeters. We don't know how this individual was able to get there. One of the most remarkable things coming from this is multiple news outlets from CBS to the BBC in Britain have witnesses who were there who say they saw the man with the gun on the roof. They told police and nothing happened. Now, it's very plausible the police presumed they were seeing the Secret Service agents, even though they weren't. But why was this? So when we've done the gathering in the past, we've had Mike Pence there when he was vice president. We've dealt with Secret Service agents. It's pretty standard protocol that if there's a line of sight to where the president or vice president is going to be, the Secret Service secures it. So this is an open question. Why didn't this happen? There's wild speculation and things like this, but we will find out the answers. In the meantime, I got to get this off my chest. This should be a unifying moment for America. A would-be assassin tried to kill a presidential candidate. Democrats lecture us repeatedly that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Do you know what a threat to democracy is? The dead person who showed up to see Donald Trump, the wounded people who showed up to see Donald Trump because an assassin tried to kill Donald Trump and shot them. That's a real threat to democracy. And I see people on the left saying, but January 6th, they tried to kill a president of the United States tonight. That's a real threat to the American Republic. People wandering around the Capitol, it was bad. I've condemned it. That was not the threat to democracy that actually killing a presidential candidate is. And if you're so polluted in your brain by your hatred of Donald Trump, you're not willing to recognize it, you're broken. He probably broke you. But the real threat to democracy is when you try to kill the candidates campaigning for president. And with that, I've got to say, the media deserves blame here. The media that talks about the threat to democracy all the time about Donald Trump deserves blame for inspiring someone. Floyd Lee Corkins was an MSNBC viewer who attempted the mass assassination of Family Research Council employees because it was considered an anti-gay group by members of the media. James Hodgkinson attempted the mass assassination of Republican members of Congress. He was an MSNBC viewer. He heard that the Republicans were going to kill grandma and take people off of Obamacare, and he decided he needed to stop them. The man who tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh, another left-wing activist, MSNBC viewer, who decided he needed to kill a Supreme Court justice. And now this. I wonder if this guy watched MSNBC. We keep getting all this rhetoric about right-wing violence and right-wing domestic terror, and the shooters of the politicians tend to be on the left. In fact, Jen Psaki, a while back, she had someone on television with her to lament the increased danger of domestic terrorism from the right.
And I did want to add, the FBI, as you know, currently ranks domestic political terrorism as a top threat in the country. And as you well know, they take these things seriously. They look at all the data. And as you just referenced, this is all coming at a time when the presumptive Republican nominee, through 4 times indicted Donald Trump, has repeatedly threatened judges, their family members, prosecutors, elected officials. I can go on. But from a law enforcement perspective, how much do you think his rhetoric is to blame for this and people who are copying his rhetoric?
How much is his rhetoric to blame for it? Let's see. Steve Scalise on the right, an MSNBC viewer tried to shoot him. Tony Perkins' group on the right, an MSNBC viewer tried to shoot him. Brett Kavanaugh on the right, an MSNBC viewer tried to kill him. Donald Trump, we don't know about this guy yet, but the pattern sure does hold up. What's remarkable is the rhetoric coming tonight immediately after Donald Trump was shot. Let me set the scene for you. You've all seen the impressive photos by the Associated Press. War photographer, as the bullets are flying, he rushes to the stage to take pictures. That's his training. It's a remarkable photo of Donald Trump with his fist in the air. And what was the response of the media? 1 minute. 1 minute after an attempted assassination, the victim of the assassination, what does he do? He raises his fist in the air and yells out, "Fight, and I'm fine." And what is the media reaction? Here's Jackie Gagnell from CNN.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, "Fight, fight, fight." I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
Yeah, I would just know one thing on this.
Lady, the man just had a bullet go through his ear, and you're going to lecture him on what the hell he's saying? Who the hell are you to lecture somebody on what they're saying 1 minute after they get shot? And then he releases a statement on True Social. Listen to this exchange between Robert Costa and Margaret Brennan.
And he closes with "God bless America." And we saw him raise his hand in the air defiantly, blood on his face as he left the stage.
He is recovering from these injuries now. This was a traumatic event, no doubt, for him. But I did notice there was no call for lowering the temperature, condemning all political violence, and really trying to signal to his supporters as well not to retaliate or to have any kind of escalation here.
Okay. Where the hell are the riots in the street, Margaret Brennan? Because, after George Floyd, they burned down half of America. I don't see, hang on, let me look out my window. I don't see people trying to burn down middle America. Trump supporters, that's what happened on the left. The BLM riots, you got Antifa out there. You don't see violence coming from the right tonight like you have from the left. And you're like, if only he had said in his statement, the victim of an would-be assassin's bullet. If only he had said we should all calm down. Maybe you people should. Let's review the rhetoric for you. You want to know where assassination porn comes from? MSNBC and members of the media who have for a very long time now been trying to convince someone to shoot Donald Trump. Here's the evidence. Exhibit 1, Michael Beschloss on MSNBC.
Yeah, and, we all know, all four of us know that term servant leadership. The president is supposed to be a servant leader, serving us. You hear about Trump saying he's going to be a dictator for a day, which is not going to be for a day if it happens. Could be for the rest of our lifetimes and our children's and more.
That's one. After the Biden administration announced EV standards for vehicles, the auto industry said it would cause a lot of job losses. Trump referred to it as a bloodbath of job losses, a bloodbath for the auto industry. This is Jen Psaki talking about it.
Trust me, I could go on and on and on. We all know by now that Trump's allusions to political violence are not merely rhetorical. Pause.
Note the full context language she's got in this.
That's part of the big problem here. And he knows that too. So no, we did not miss the full context. This was not some meandering off-message comment. This is his message. As the Biden campaign put it, this is who Donald Trump is.
See that? You got the Biden administration feeding the talking points to MSNBC, amplifying Trump's rhetoric, claiming he's a threat to democracy. They're all in on this together. Here's Rachel Maddow on MSNBC.
And now with the Republican appointees on the courts doing what they have done at the highest court in the land, I really think we need to get clear about the fact that the project of the Republican Party is to install a strongman form of government in the United States and get rid of democracy. And that is the project of electing Donald Trump.
The project of electing Donald Trump is to get rid of democracy. You can almost hear her say, I wish someone would shoot the guy. She doesn't. She doesn't say that. I'm not saying she does. But Michael Beschloss, Jen Psaki, Rachel Maddow. Oh, wait. And then there's Nicole Wallace as well. Listen to this one.
I've seen that toast a bunch of times, but it landed very differently this year. Because depending on what happens in November, 7 months from right now, this time next year, I might not be sitting here. There might not be a White House Correspondents' Dinner or a free press. While our democracy
exactly fall apart immediately without it. The real threat looms larger. A candidate with outward disdain, not just for a free press, but for all of our freedoms and for the rule of law itself.
And notice that MSNBC billing it American autocracy, but not just them. Also, John Tester running for re-election in Montana. Listen to John Tester on MSNBC.
And I don't think, even in states where Donald Trump won big, that it does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face. I mean, the truth is this guy is bad for this country. We're
bad for this country. One more from Michael Beschloss.
That's what's at issue. But what I'm saying is if we allow Donald Trump to succeed in fuzzing these issues up and making it seem as if nothing important is at stake, then people whom you and I know love their rights, love democracy, love American history, most of it, will not act to save it. They'll just say there's no difference between Trump and Biden. So all I'm saying is you and I know, are totally agreed that, you know, from now until the election in November, we've all got to say the only issue is democracy versus dictatorship. Don't let them take it away.
Don't let them take it away by voting for Donald Trump. This is wishy casting for someone to do something for Donald Trump. This is the rhetoric of the news outlets that are tonight upset that a minute after Donald Trump had a bullet graze him, he wasn't telling people to calm down. A minute after Donald Trump was nearly killed by an assassin, a bullet centimeters from killing Donald Trump. They're upset by Donald Trump's response. I'm upset by the media's response for 8 years in this threat to democracy rhetoric, this rhetoric that Donald Trump wants to be a dictator for life, that Donald Trump would be an autocrat. For God's sakes, MSNBC did an entire series labeled American Autocracy, what it would look like if Donald Trump got back in power. We can't let him. And the president of the United States a week ago told donors it was time to put Donald Trump in the bullseye. You want to talk about rhetoric? Why the hell aren't you people, Margaret Brennan, lecturing the Democrats? Why do you always lecture the Republicans? When Gabby Giffords was nearly assassinated back whenever it happened, I was on CNN, and they kept lecturing me. Well, you Republicans, Sarah Palin and your tone, saying you're targeting Gabby Giffords, using violent rhetoric by targeting. We've always in this country referred to targeting swing districts. That's what she did. And they blame Sarah Palin. When the would-be assassin tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh, where were the media lecturing Chuck Schumer on his tone about the Supreme Court? Nowhere. Where was the media? In fact, Mary Catherine Ham was on CNN when James Hodgkinson attempted the mass assassination of Republicans. When it turned out he was an MSNBC viewer, loved Rachel Maddow, and supported Bernie Sanders, that story went away immediately, dropped from the headlines because the media is in on this. You people in the media have the audacity to lecture Republicans about turning down the rhetoric. You're the ones who lit the fire under the rhetoric. You're the ones who say Donald Trump's a threat to democracy. You're the ones who say somebody's got to do something. You're the ones who say if Donald Trump gets elected, democracy is over. You're the ones who do this. How the hell is it our fault? Donald Trump gets nearly killed tonight, and you people are like, Donald Trump needs to turn the rhetoric down now, doesn't he? Maybe you people do. It's absurd and offensive. For a year, I have been warning this would happen. Someone from the left would attempt to kill Donald Trump. For a year, I've been warning about this. I've covered it on my radio show. Every month I've covered it. Every month I pointed out James Hodgkinson was an MSNBC viewer. Floyd Lee Corkins was an MSNBC viewer. The Brett Kavanaugh shooter or would-be assassin was an MSNBC viewer. MSNBC keeps trotting out this rhetoric about Trump. He's going to be a dictator. He's going to be an autocrat. He's going to kill democracy. He's a threat to democracy. The president says the same thing. I told you something like this was going to happen. I've been saying for a while this was going to happen. It was obvious from the rhetoric. These are the people who say words mean things, words matter, and yet they never want to be held accountable for their own words. And now you had Donald Trump come within centimeters of having a bullet through his head. And you know what they're saying tonight? Well, Donald Trump needs to turn down the rhetoric now, doesn't he? Screw you people. That's offensive. Your first reaction. And don't tell me it wasn't your first reaction, because Jackie Gagnon on CNN, a minute after Donald Trump is taken off stage, is, I can't believe he said, fight, 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 instead of, please, everyone, turn down the rhetoric. I realize I've got a hole through my ear and I'm bleeding everywhere, but turn down the rhetoric and love your neighbor and be nice to the Democrats, one of whom might have just shot me. That was her first reaction on CNN. It's amazing to me that this is where we are as a nation, that the media, they're in on this. The media is complicit in this. Yes, you're damn right. You people are the enemies of this republic. If you yourself, your first reaction when Donald Trump stands up, raises his fist in the air, shows people he's okay and says fight, your first reaction is, oh, he's so mean. Why doesn't he tone down the rhetoric? We could get violence in this country if he doesn't turn down the rhetoric. And now you got the people on CBS lecturing, oh, the temperature is so high.
And it should be noted, many of Trump's supporters on social media tonight extremely angry. It's not going to reflect all of the verbatims of what we're seeing on social media from some of the Republicans around Trump. But to be clear, this is still a politically charged moment, yes, as much as it is a crime investigation and a security moment. Many people already in this country very angry at the other side, not just on a partisan red versus blue level, but we cover it all the time here at CBS News. There's a visceral nature to the emotions that pour out on the campaign trail.
And to that point, Bob Costa, I was just texting with Robert O'Brien, the former national security advisor to Donald Trump, who sent out a statement saying we've got to take the political temperature down. He and Mike Lee, the senator, issued this jointly. We've got to take the political temperature down, as evidenced by what happened in Pennsylvania today. So two key Republican Trump supporters calling for the rhetoric, the political violence, the threats of it to be lowered. That is in stark contrast to the head of the Trump campaign, one of the top Trump campaign officials you were reading statements from earlier. We are also looking at social media posts from other Republicans.
Okay, first of all, yes, we need to lower the rhetoric. But you people start, Margaret Brennan. You people start. You're the ones who run the American autocracy stories about Donald Trump. You're the ones who say he's a threat to democracy. You're the ones who say he's going to be a dictator. You're the ones who say he's going to be an autocrat. You people in the media go first. Y'all go first. And maybe it's not you, Margaret Brennan, but it sure as hell people at your network. Tell Gayle King to settle down. Y'all go tell the people at ABC, calm down The View, shut them up. At CNN, MSNBC, yes, the rhetoric needs to tone down. The problem is, you think that Mike Lee and Robert O'Brien are talking to Republicans. No, they're talking to you people. They're talking to the president of the United States, who on July 8th said you need to put the bullseye on Donald Trump. That's what they're talking about. Do you have no clue that you guys are to blame? You guys incentivize this crazy rhetoric. You got crazy people who will do things, and we saw it time and again, and they were all MSNBC viewers. They're all on the left. Are there crazy people on the right? You're damn right they are. I've had them show up at my house. I know what I'm talking about. I've had right-wing nuts show up at my house. I've had right-wing nuts threaten my kids. I've had right-wing nuts come after my family. I know it exists on the right. The problem is y'all never seem to think it exists on the left, and yet the pattern is remarkable of would-be political assassins in this country. I do not have to know anything about the shooter to know he attempted to shoot the Republicans' nominee for president of the United States. Days after Joe Biden, it was leaked, told people to put a Donald Trump in the bullseye. This guy tried to put Donald Trump in the bullseye and thankfully failed. Where's the accountability for the Democrats? And I can tell you, they're going to do Republicans pounce. They're going to say, oh, Republicans are trying to capitalize on this. Republicans, it's so predictable. They'll say Republicans are trying to capitalize. They'll say Republicans need to turn down the rhetoric. Republicans need to be accountable. There will be not one damn word about the Democrats and the rhetoric from MSNBC. Oliver Darcy at CNN will not chronicle all the times MSNBC hysterically said if Donald Trump gets elected and nobody does anything, he's going to be a dictator and autocrat. There will never be accountability for the left. There will never be accountability for the media. And tonight, the chickens came home to roost for them and their rhetoric. Someone nearly put a bullet in Donald Trump's head, and that person, I guarantee you, is not from the right. And yet all we get from the media is, oh, it's the right. The right is violent. The right is domestic terrorism. I will say this. Switching subjects. This does hurt the Democrats if there's a political angle here, because now it pushes further aside the conversations about Joe Biden having to step aside. It makes Joe Biden look leaderly. He reached out to Donald Trump. They had a conversation on the phone. He reached out to the mayor in Pennsylvania, reached out to the governor in Pennsylvania, reached out to Donald Trump's doctors. He reached out to the Secret Service. He's going to be involved in the investigation and rally the Justice Department, and this pushes further and further back the conversations about what to do with him. And I will tell you, there are a group of independent voters out there who hate both Trump and Biden. But they're going to look again at Donald Trump and say, man, they really do hate this man so much. I might have to stand with him to stand with democracy, because in a field in Pennsylvania tonight, democracy came under attack in the form of a would-be assassin trying to kill the Republican presidential candidate. And you know, the Democrats, they've been telling us we need to stand up for democracy. To do that, you might just have to vote for Donald Trump.